In the heart of the bustling city of Lagos stood a grand mansion, framed by high walls and ornate gates. It belonged to a wealthy woman named Madame Veronica, a name that inspired both admiration and fear. With an empire built on her late husband's inheritance and a booming textile business, Madame Veronica lived in comfort that most could only dream of. Yet behind her polished smile and glamorous lifestyle was a truth too painful to ignore, a truth hidden behind the gates of her private orphanage. Madame Veronica had started the orphanage years ago, earning public praise for her generosity and a philanthropic heart. Politicians honored her, celebrities sang her praises, and her name often appeared in magazines and TV programs as a symbol of compassion. But those who lived inside the orphanage knew a very different Madame Veronica. The building itself, tucked behind her estate, was in sharp contrast to her marble-floored mansion. The children slept on thin mats. The walls were cracked, water was scarce, and food was rationed like prison meals. Some days, they ate nothing at all. 12-year-old Kemi remembered the day she arrived. Her parents had died in a car accident, and she was left with no family to care for her. When social services brought her to Madame Veronica's orphanage, they told her she was lucky, that the rich woman had a heart of gold. But from the very first night, Kemi realized the gold had rusted. Madame Veronica rarely came to the orphanage in person. Instead, she sent a cruel supervisor, Miss Lydia, who ran the place like a military camp. Children were forced to scrub the floors, cook their own meals, wash Madame Veronica's clothes, and tend to her gardens in the blazing sun, all without pay. If anyone disobeyed or complained, they were punished. A missed chore meant no food. Talking back meant being locked in the dark storeroom for hours. Every year, Madame Veronica would host a fundraiser. She'd bring cameras, politicians, and guests to the orphanage, all staged to look like a paradise. New beds and toys would appear for one day. The children were given clean clothes, taught to smile, and warned, say anything wrong, and you'll be punished. So they smiled. They smiled through their hunger, smiled through their bruises, smiled through their pain. But pain has a way of speaking even when the mouth is silent. One rainy evening, something changed. Kemi and two of the older boys, Tope and Jide, discovered a small video camera hidden in a bag left behind by a charity volunteer. Kemi had overheard the volunteer say, "Someone needs to know what's really happening here." That night, the three of them made a bold decision. They began to document everything. The peeling walls, the empty pantry, the punishments, the labor, they recorded it all. Whispered interviews with crying children. Scenes of Miss Lydia yelling and slapping. Videos of their daily suffering. Over the next few weeks, they waited patiently for the right moment. Then came Madame Veronica's annual gala. The mansion was flooded with reporters and donors, the orphanage temporarily cleaned and decorated. Kemi, wearing a borrowed dress and fake smile, slipped into the crowd unnoticed. She approached a young reporter named Ada, known for her investigative work. With trembling hands, Kemi pressed the camera into her palm and whispered, "Please, show the world." The next week, everything changed. Ada's report went viral. The world saw the truth, the abuse, the exploitation, the lies behind Madame Veronica's philanthropy. Angry donors pulled their support. Government officials launched an investigation. The orphanage was shut down, and Madame Veronica was arrested for child abuse, fraud, and embezzlement. Madame Veronica tried to defend herself in court, insisting the children were ungrateful liars. But the evidence was overwhelming. Photos, videos, testimonies from dozens of children. Even Miss Lydia, under pressure, confessed everything. It was a fall from grace so dramatic it shook the nation. In time, the children were relocated to better homes, real orphanages run by people with real hearts. Kemi, Tope, and Jide were placed in a caring foster home, where they could finally go to school and live like children, not prisoners. Years passed. Kemi grew into a strong, determined woman. She later returned to the orphanage's ruins, not with tears, but with hope. With the help of kind donors and Ada the reporter, she opened a new center for orphans. This time, the walls were full of color and laughter. No child scrubbed floors or begged for food. They played. They learned. They healed. In her opening speech, Kemi said, "We were once forgotten children, hidden behind walls, silenced by fear. But we found our voices. And now, we are building a future where no orphan suffers cruelty in silence again." And so, out of cruelty bloomed compassion. Out of pain rose power. The story of Madame Veronica was a dark chapter, but it was not the end. The true ending was written by the very children she tried to break, children who became the authors of their own freedom.